Hello, this is Chapter 2, Lecture 3, even though it says Lecture 2 up there. We're just finishing off on this one. At the end of last lecture, we were talking about this production possibilities frontier with game programs and business programs. And I left you with one question down here. What is the best option above to produce that? So in other words, of all these options up here, we have option A, which is all business programs, and B, we have some game programs here, a little bit less business programs, and so on. And we go down here, we get more business programs and less game programs. And so the question is of A, B, C, D, E, what's the best point? Or along the curve here, what's the best point on the curve? And a lot of students would tend to say, somewhere in the middle, B or C or D, something like that, maybe C. Students tend to like some kind of a mixture, a balance, I guess. And that's not the correct answer. The correct answer depends on what our customers want. So remember, we have two different kinds of efficiency. We have productive efficiency, where you have to produce on the frontier, and that it would be productive or production efficiency. And that means we're not wasting our resources. To use all of our resources fully and effectively, we have to be on the frontier somewhere. The other kind of efficiency is allocative. And that means we produce the right mixture of goods in just the right amounts. So any point up here, A, B, C, D, E, is allocative efficient. What I do know is that a point here, such as F, is neither productive efficient nor allocative. It's not productive because we're not producing on the frontier, and it's not allocative because we can get more. We can go from F to D and get more business programs, keeping the amount of game programs the same. Or we can produce more game programs going from F to C and keep the same production of business programs at 20. Or we can actually get more of both. Move it right there, get an increase in both game program and business programs, which would make people better off. So also to be allocative efficient, you must be on the curve. And right now we cannot answer that question. We don't know which is the best point. It could be A, if all of our customers want game programs. It could be E, if our customers only want business programs. Or if they want to have some mixture, it'll be somewhere in the middle. And the way we determine that is how they place their orders. Whatever they order, we are going to produce. Our job is to please our customers. And so there is a point out there, allocative efficiency, and that's determined by the market itself. Interaction of buyers and sellers will determine the correct mixture out there. If people want to have more game programs, they'll go out there and they'll spend more money on game programs, and the businesses have to respond if they want to stay in business. And if customers want to have some other product, maybe more red shoes, then again, the manufacturers have to make red shoes, or else again, they will go out of business. Now, last part of looking at frontiers in the first part of Chapter 2 is going to be economic growth. And economic growth is defined right here. The productive capacity has increased. So it means that we're able to produce more of both goods, or maybe just one good, but we're able to produce more production. And so if this is, say, good A, just to make up a name, and this is good B, and then we can draw in our frontier like that, just kind of sketch one in. We can call this production possibilities frontier 1. And then economic growth is shown by having the curve shift outward. Remember I said the point out here is not possible right now. That's currently impossible, but not for the future. If we have economic growth, we can actually shift a new frontier through that point. And that would be going from frontier 1 to frontier 2. And going out to the right represents economic growth. And economic growth is caused by two main factors. One, we can expand the amount of resources we have. One way to do that is by increasing the amount of land. That may have been done in the past, but it's not really a practical way to now, in these days, to actually increase the amount of land. That means you're probably taking it for someone else. That means probably some kind of a war, which probably is not a good idea. Typically, the way we've increased our productive capacities, going back to, say, 1900, is by increasing labor and human capital. So labor is simply population growth. It could be immigration. More people in the country can produce more. And we can also give them more human capital. We can have education, workplace experience, training. All that will improve the productive capacity of labor. And typically we've done both. We've had population growth, and we also have invested quite a bit in human capital. In fact, one of the most important things that we've had for government policy has been having the government provide a large amount of education to the workforce. And we can also increase the physical capital. That is, again, equipment, machinery, tools, robots, and that's known as capital accumulation. And that is done through investment. Remember, investment is not buying shares of stock in economics. Investment is increasing the amount of capital, which is capital accumulation. So if you build a new building, you build a new factory, you build a new machine, a new computer, all that is investment, and all that leads to economic growth. Which comes back to an interesting trade-off. If we look at the frontier as being two different kinds of goods we can produce capital goods, which again are equipment, tools, machinery, things used in production. And then we can produce what economists call consumption goods. Consumption goods are the goods and services, actually, that consumers purchase. So this would be restaurant meals, this would be a six-pack of colas, this would be computer games, clothes, jewelry, all the nice stuff we like to consume. And there's a trade-off. If we have more of our resources over here producing more consumer goods, more consumption goods, then we have less capacity to produce capital goods, which means next year when we have economic growth, it's not going to be very much. And so if we produce here, we would have maybe just a small increase in the frontier. If we go up here, we produce less consumption goods, more capital goods. This means we have more equipment for investment, which means the frontier will move out further. So what we do today has an effect on where we're going to be tomorrow, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And so we have to decide today on the proper mixture here in terms of trying to balance pleasing current consumption, consumers, as well as focusing on future growth. Another way to have economic growth is through technological change. This means we find better, smarter ways to produce things. And this is mostly done through research and development, which you might hear is R&D in businesses. So coming up with new products, new ways to make things, using robotics, using more powerful computers, having different kinds of mixtures of different kind of resources can also lead to economic growth. The government can have a say in that through universities, research universities, money spent on grants. A lot of research is funded by government. Government research led to the development and production of lasers out there. The internet came from the federal government, and so again, a lot of our technological improvements have come through government. Now we can also have uneven growth. So let's go back to, say, good A and good B, and I'll draw on a frontier. And uneven growth means that maybe our capacity increases for one good or another. So maybe we have improvements in the production of B, but A has no improvements in terms of production. So we have research development for B, A stays the same, and so we don't have a shift out of the entire curve, it would pivot out. And that's how we would model improvements in the production of one good. And this would be, again, the first frontier, and this would be the second frontier. And going back to, say, about 1900, economists have looked at economic growth, and they pretty much split into thirds. About a third of economic growth has come through population growth, more labor. A third has come through investment, giving labor more tools, more human capital to work with. And then a third has come from technology.